I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker, Rob Hale, whose hero's journey is nothing short of mind-blowing. Rob launched Granite Communications in 2002, initially managing landline services for early clients like Walmart. Today, Granite is a leader in voice, data, and networking, generating around $2 billion in annual revenue. Just days ago, Forbes recognized Rob as number 225 on its list of the 400 wealthiest Americans. Rob has an estimated net worth of $5.8 billion. His leadership style is defined by transparency and connection. During the pandemic, he sent daily emails celebrating his team's achievements and even supported local restaurants by having meals delivered to employees who could eat together virtually as long as they did not talk about work. Rob also participates in 6:30 a.m. workouts at Granite's Quincy, Massachusetts headquarters. He is a dedicated philanthropist. When he gives commencement speeches, he gifts graduates $1,000 each and asks them to donate half. In recent years, Rob has donated $400 million to cancer research, education, and other causes. He is a proud owner of a minority stake in the Boston Celtics. So we are very grateful to have Rob. I'll let him come up and answer those jeers. Rob, please come to stage. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good to see you guys. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Alan. It's funny, when I listened to Alan this morning, I learned that we have things in common. And one of those is disdain for private equity. But the other thing that I'm aware of is we both love the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, honestly, Warriors are great. Kerr did a wonderful thing this summer. When, as you know, he was the coach of Team USA, and he decided not to choose Jaylen Brown, who was the Eastern Conference MVP, Finals MVP, and then the NBA Finals MVP. But according to Kerr, he's not one of the best 12 players in America. And then he benched Jason Tatum, who was first-team All-NBA starter. So as a fan of the Celtics, we had to be worried about complacency. And yet Steve Kerr solves that problem for us. So Golden State Warriors fans, thanks a lot. And by the way, the other thing that I love when I was coming here to LA, this is kind of like Land of Lakers, right? Yeah. Oh, man, you guys, such a great season. You raised that banner. I was so proud of you. Wow. That was an awesome banner you guys raised. What was that called? The in-season mid-tournament banner? Oh, that's awesome. Wow, Lakers, you got another banner. We got this other banner, was called the Larry O'Brien Trophy World Championship banner. Is there any difference? Oh, so we both got banners. Let's give a golf clap for the Lakers for their in-season tournament win. Okay. Now, honestly, guys, how lucky are you? I mean, by that I mean you, not me, you. Here we are in sunny California. We're at a conference learning from some of the leaders of our industry, right? Vibrant technology, brilliant mentors, like career-defining knowledge is pulsing through these hallways. And you are about to get career advice from a telecom veteran, right? So I'm in telecom, like you, data services, whatever the right vernacular is, I'm in the same thing as you, who was so successful, I took a company public, stunning IPO, and then I was so good at leading that company that I drove it into bankruptcy and in the process lost $1 billion. So, have you ever met someone who lost $1 billion before? So there's a very good chance that I'm the biggest loser in the history of this industry. And you're about to get career advice from me. You guys are lucky. No, honestly, I don't know why I'm here. Maybe Alan couldn't get Musk. I don't know. Maybe he couldn't get Bill Gates. Other industry titans wouldn't come. Governor Newsom, I've never seen him not miss a photo op. I don't know why he's not here. So, since I am here, let's just make the most of the next hour and 45, 50 minutes together, okay? Okay. This isn't going to be an hour and 45 minutes. Mark my words. Okay. I do have 4 lessons from a life in this industry that I'm going to share with you. Okay? To illustrate those, I probably have to begin with my checkered history. So if you bear with me for a couple minutes, I'm going to tell you about the path that I took to get to where I am today. Because the most valuable lessons I learned happened 20 years ago. So I graduated in '88. I went to work in sales for MCI in '88. Any MCIers in the room? Nice. There we go. Several of us are raising hands. It was great. I loved every minute of it. There was this thing called aggregation, which was bulk buying of AT&T services. I didn't know what it was. Customers asked me, and I said, well, I'll look into it. As I looked into it, I said to my parents, my father and my mother, my father was an importer of women's apparel. He had a wonderful little business. I was raised in an entrepreneurial environment. So as I looked into this, I said to my folks, we can do this. And so my parents put up $400,000. And now, as you heard from Lindsay, there's a lot of zeros around Granite and me now, which is wonderful. But $400,000 in 1990 was my parents' nest egg. So never to be forgotten, they bet the farm on me in 1990. So they were the funders, and I was the founder of a company called Network Plus. 1990, we lost money. From 91 to 98, we grew profitably. By 98, we were 150 million. We net 10, 11, 12% every year. We had a great business. I just know how great it was. Goldman Sachs cold called me and said, hey, listen, you want to do a bond offering? And I said, I'm a phone guy. I'm not a finance guy. I don't even know what a bond offering is. And they said, if you do a bond offering, you can do an IPO. And you will be a billionaire. And I said, about that bond offering, I'd really like to do it, please. So what they said was going to happen, happened. We went public in June of '99. You remember a couple of years ago, certainly out here, when tech stock was so hot that the IPO demand price was at a certain level, but the first trade didn't happen until a much higher level because the demand was so high, no one was willing to sell. Do you remember that a couple of years ago? That's what happened to us. So our stock was supposed to open at $16 a share. First trade didn't happen until $26 a share because no one was willing to sell. Over the next 8 or 9 months, our stock got up to about $62, $63 a share. I owned 27 million of those shares. So I had $1.4 billion next to my name. According to Forbes at the time, I was the 7th wealthiest guy in the world under 40. Then if you recall, a bubble burst in March of 2000. Where are those MCI guys again? Where's the old guys? I need a couple of the old guys to respond. Thank you. A burst, felt like it burst mostly in my face. Stock for 8 or 9 months went like this. For the next 18 months went like this. Fall of 2001, Goldman and Fleet and CSFB, which were our banks, called me and said, hey, listen, Rob, you have a credit line. And when it expires, we're not going to renew it. We were EBITDA positive. We'd never missed a covenant. They just said, we don't bank CLEX anymore. Any of you guys worked in CLEX before? All the old people are raising their hands. Thank you. So that we had done what we said we were going to do. They decided they exited our industry. So on February 4th of 2002, we were forced into bankruptcy. February 4th of 2002, I hit bottom. That morning when we declared bankruptcy, equity was wiped out. So officially and finally, what had previously been $1.4 billion officially became zero, never to come back, forever. So that morning I knew with finality I'd lost $1.4 billion, and that hurts. It got worse. That morning at 10 o'clock, we had gotten debtor in possession financing, which is financing you take into bankruptcy. There was a contingency. 10 o'clock that morning, I think I lead the sales force at Granite. I thought that I led the sales force at Network Plus. That morning, I had to get on a conference call with all 400 salespeople, and I had to tell them, you may have trusted me, and I hope they joined that company because they trusted me. You may have trusted me, but I've betrayed you. You don't have a job anymore. I had to let 400 people go on a conference call. Hurts. That afternoon, calls got worse. My wife was at home, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old. Phone rings. She picks up the phone. The guy on the end of the call says, because of what your husband has done, I'm going to come over and kill you. So I have seen the bottom. So February 4th hit bottom, March 15th sold at auction, June 3rd started Granite. Lesson number 1. I have seen failure. I'm not telling you as a potential Granite customer. What I'm telling you I think most of you run small to medium-sized businesses and have aspirations of running great businesses. Am I right? What I'm telling you as a friend, don't fear failure. Failure is part of this process. If you take chances, you will fail. Hopefully, more often than not, you will succeed. But if a fear of failure drives you, you'll get nowhere. I failed big time, like big, big time. All those cool things that Lindsay talked about. Things that I'm really proud of. Like Boston Business Journal ranked Granite 2 Tuesdays ago as the most philanthropic company in Massachusetts. We put $54 million into our community last year. Number 1. We've created 2,500 American jobs. Thank you. We get lots of awards for Entrepreneur of the Year. All these cool things that happened, if I had feared failure, if we had feared failure, none of them would have happened. So in my opinion, failure is part of the process. Be afraid of it. Use it to motivate you. The only way failure is permanent is if it stops you. Don't fear failure, number 1. Number 2, lessons that I seared in my brain permanently from that February time frame. Stick to your knitting. I made all the decisions at Network Plus. I make the important decisions at Granite. Think about this for a minute. As I mentioned, in 1998, we had a business. My father and mother owned half. I owned half. It was a $150 million business. We net 12% a year. Do the math, right? We were making 18, 20 million bucks a year. With my family, like most of you own small businesses, I assume. How cool would it be to work with your kid or your dad? I had that. I screwed up. Wall Street seduced me and said, you could become a billionaire, which, by the way, is very seductive. Let's be clear about that. But in so doing, not only did we have an IPO, which was about $150 million, we had a secondary, which was $275 million. We had a bond offering, which was $255 million. We had a credit line that was $225 million. Over the 11, 12 months, we raised about $850 million. It all went away, so there's no pride in that, right? We became a finance company that ran switches instead of a customer get and keep company. Our niche for 8, 9 years was to get and keep customers. And we were really, because we never acquired anything, and we'd grown a long-distance company to $150 million profitably. We're good at getting and keeping customers. I made a mistake. and said, we'll get in the finance business and we'll learn how to run local networks. Running local networks and being in the capital raising business are completely different things than getting and keeping customers. And so if you build half a bridge and you don't have the other half of the bridge, you're screwed. I'm the one who made those choices. I got off our path. My fault. I'm not the brightest bulb on the porch, but I'm not the dimmest either. So the lesson that I learned is stick to your knitting. Now, our knitting at Granite is getting and keeping customers. This math is really quite simple. We're $1.8 billion. We've been doing this for 22 years. So figure for the first year we were just trying to get our feet. If you do the math, we've grown $90 million a year 20 years in a row. We've made a acquisition, a company called Epic, which was a wireless POTS replacement. We bought that as a product to help our customers transition out of the analog world. Beyond that, we've made no acquisitions. We have had exactly $0 of outside investment in the history of Granite. We've had exactly $0 of debt in the history of Granite. And you know how much marketing we have. Within your community, we have a bit. In the broader universe, we have none. So we got no marketing, essentially no acquisition, no debt, and no outside investment. And yet we've averaged growing $90 million a year, 20 years in a row. How do you do that? Get and keep customers, right? Pretty straightforward stuff. You cannot fill the bucket if there's a hole in the bottom. So why does that matter to you? I promise you, I think most of you are in the sales business or support of sales business. I live in your world. I know how hard it is to get and keep customers. Is it hard? Like, it's really hard, isn't it? How disappointing is it when you work your ass off 2 years to get a big deal, and then you put it on a provider and they jack it up in 3 months? And then you're like, God damn it, that was a great relationship. I worked so hard to get it, and now it's gone. That sucks, doesn't it? Rest assured, we at Granite understand how hard you have to work to get and keep those customers, because that's the only thing we've ever done is get and keep customers. So if you want an advocate, if you want a partner who is willing to fight to make your customers happy, the lesson that I learned 20 years ago, stick to your knitting, get and keep customers. We're good at it. Second lesson that came out of those failures that matters to you. Again, from 91 to 98, we had a great business. I made a mistake. Me, nobody else. And I let others into our finances. When we did IPO and public stock and essentially a public bond, others therefore can exert control on your financial future. I made those mistakes. And again, I'm not the brightest bulb on the porch, but I'm not the dimmest either. I had it great, and it got taken away from me. The lesson I learned, again, is stick to your knitting. Granite is in the get and keep customer business. We're not in the finance business. We have no debt, none. We have no outside investors. You know who I'm beholden to? You, your customers, our customers. I got 2,500 teammates. They're accountable to me. I'm accountable to them. We are accountable to each other. The only people who are going to control our destiny are on this stage. Now, I heard Alan talk about private equity, and I'm not, my opinion in life is you should focus on your own strengths. But as you know, in our industry, there's more and more and more private equity. But there are other things that have been in our industry for a long time. There are companies, and you know it, that you buy services from today. Their very viability is at risk today, right? There are companies that you work with today that you have to wonder, are they going to exist a year or two from now, right? Right? Am I asking a trick question? You guys read the same newspapers that I read? Okay? You know that the first thing when they start to cut costs, guess what's going to go first? Service and your commissions, right? You know at some of the big companies, when they need to cut costs and a VP wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, your comp plan can get changed. You know that, right? If you haven't, wait, it will happen. And third, with the private equity space, yes, they're going to cut costs, but the part that I got to be honest with you about is that if you understand what a private equity investor is in the time frame they have, you know that sometime in the next 3 to 5 years, it is going to change, right? A private equity fund is an investor of other organizations' money, right? So when you hear that they raised 400, 500, 600 million, $1 billion, that's not their money. That's the California Teachers Fund. That's Princeton University. That's their money. The deal they strike with Princeton is, give me 100 million, and in 6 years, I'll give you back 200 million. That's the deal. Princeton's not going to say, you can hold my money ad infinitum. They're going to say, give me back my money 3, 4, 5 years. So guess what? When they invest, there's a horizon. They need their money back. Simple as that. So the people who are pursuing you with a private equity background might say, I'm in charge. Yeah, you're in charge until they say you're not. And it's going to be 3, 4, 5 years from now. That's just a fact. You can't debate it. So sticking to our knitting has given us the leverage that I can look you in the eye. I'm trying, these lights are bright, to look you in the eye and say, Granite's not perfect. We're far from it. We've never not paid one of you every penny that you were due for the last 22 years, period. And more importantly, I own Granite. I love the struggle. I'm designed to do this. I don't want to stop. I want to keep doing this. And more so than anyone you can imagine, I know how hard you have worked your ass off to get those deals. I respect the hustle. I want you to succeed. We are here to support you for years. Give us a great customer and we'll work our asses off to keep it. And then we'll give you the peace of mind that you're going to keep getting paid. Lessons that I learned from failure. Lesson number 3, integrity matters. Harkening back to 21. Again, I'm CEO of a public company. Any of you who currently work or did work for public companies, I call that the 90-day guillotine. You've got 90 days to make your numbers. If you don't make your numbers, the guillotine's going to drop on your head. That's the way it is. So our VP from Quest calls me, Rob, let's do a fiber swap. And I say, I don't know what that means. He said, and I'm not going to belabor the point with you and get into financial machinations, but it's essentially taking OpEx from them, CapEx from them, making it your OpEx, taking our CapEx and making it their OpEx. It's a way to bolster your numbers and create, for us, a couple $1 million worth of earnings. And if you've ever been around a public company that was $300 million, which is $75 million a quarter, the idea of grabbing a couple $1 million of like easy earnings is intoxicatingly interesting. So I said, yeah, sounds great. I said to our CFO, hey, what do you think about this? And he said, Rob, it doesn't sound kosher to me, but let's look into it. As we looked into it, he said, I don't think you should do this. I said, can you ask PricewaterhouseCoopers, please? PwC came back and said, Rob, I don't think you should do it either. And I'm the CEO. I drive the bus. I make the shots. So I called back the guy from Quest, and I go, no, we're not doing that. Thank you, though. The next day, he calls me up, and he undresses me. Rob, you're a pissant little reseller, $300 million. We're Quest, $20 billion LEC. Arthur Andersen is the same big five as PwC. They're the same. We can do this. How can't you? Good point. I go back to the CFO and I say, Bob, come on, guy. $2 million worth of easy earnings? Look at this closely. I strongly encourage you not to do it, but I'll ask PwC again. PwC says, again, Rob, strongly encourage you, don't do this. I think about it for a night. Again, I'm the one driving the bus. This is my decision. I have to live with it. Quest, we're not going to do this. 2 quarters later, we went bankrupt. If we had not done that, I think a couple quarters more, we would have survived. I'm almost certain we would have gone into bankruptcy anyway. Quest. So, any of you guys still do deals with Joe Nacho? No? You do? Or you don't? Some of you do deals with Joe? Well, if you do, communications must be hard because he has to sit on the other side of the glass in the jail that he's still in. So Joe Nacho's still in jail from doing this. Arthur Anderson is disbarred for this in Enron. Disbarred. So the lesson that I learned is that integrity matters. Perseus said, better to succeed, better to fail with honor than to succeed through fraud. So I'm telling you this again, not as an advocate for Granite, but as a friend. If you fail, it's okay. If you cheat, it's not. They're completely different things. So I'm telling you what I'm lucky to own parts of lots of things. All the people who run parts of our businesses, I tell those leaders, let me be clear with you. I'm not trying to sound immodest when I say this to you. But if I make $1 million or $2 million more, my life will not change. If I end up on the front page of the Boston Globe for cheating, my life will change. So the way I look at it is the way we are at Granite. If you have a deal that's sort of dubious, but we can make a lot of money, I'm telling you, we want no part of that. I'm not pious. I'm not telling you I'm Mother Teresa. What I'm telling you is I'm practical. I have seen what cheating can do to you, and we are not going to have any part of that. Conversely, if you got a customer that's like, hey, we got to work hard to win this business, and we got to work hard to keep this customer, and it's a great deal, it's an honorable, hard-working, good deal, we're your guys. That's what we're here for. Integrity matters. Final lesson. To grow your business, and I think most of you want to grow your business, and I promise you I want to grow mine. This morning, some people have said to me, what's your game plan? I'm like, I'm not sure what my game plan is to get bigger. I come to work every day to get bigger. Granite growing makes my heart beat hard, aggressively. So I'm here to get bigger. My advice to you to get bigger, and I'm going to keep doing my own advice here, is to listen to your customers. Your customers will tell you how to get bigger. So I got to harken back to 2002. First lesson that we learned in this business. We got into this business, by the way, in 2002, there were 7 of us. We did wholesale because we didn't have any money. So you did a wholesale deal with Verizon just to get in the game. And our goal, and I'm telling you honestly, was to create scale by doing wholesale, create scale, and then deploy switches to control the customer. And I'll get back to that in a minute. So we did a wholesale deal with Verizon. We got a bit of business, a beta test from Walmart and Walgreens. Walmart and Walgreens said this wholesaling of phone lines, this sounds good. Let's test it in our Boston stores. Shortly thereafter, they said, let's test it in New England. Consolidating and discounting for New England, so far so good. Let's do it for the entire Northeast. Almost to the same day, they brought us to Bentonville and Chicago and said, hey, this wholesaling of our phone lines, this consolidating of our phone lines, it's good for us. We are going to do this for the rest of the country. We may not do it with you, but we are going to do this for the rest of the country. So by the time wheels touch home, I got to make a decision. Are we going to do what our industry said? And by the way, at that time, and I remember I was fresh from Wall Street, middle of our industry, and the industry said to control the customer, you had to run them through to create value, you had to control the customer, which means run them through your network. That was the only way to control and create value. The first and the fifth largest retailer in America said to us, essentially consolidate and discount all of our services. And so as we thought about it, we're like, listen, if the first and the fifth need this, we think there's a niche here. So while you look at it today and say, gee, this aggregation business sounds kind of logical, the truth is we invented it. And people say to us, how'd you get that great idea? We didn't. You know who had that great idea? Walmart and Walgreens. And if we didn't go to Chicago and to Bentonville and listen, I'm fairly certain we wouldn't be where we wouldn't be where we are today. Customers created the very embryonic gem of the foundation of Granite. Customers told us. Story number 2. 2009, Walmart calls me. Rob, we've given Humana, you know the benefits company Humana in Louisville? We've given Humana the ability to put a kiosk in every one of our stores. We'd like you to put an analog line into them. 4,400. Yes, please. Bang. Great. By the way, we want you to cross-connect them. And I said, we're not in the cross-connecting business. And they said to me, I don't think you heard me. Yes, sir. I got it. Great. And so the next 4 months, we just called Ed's Electric 4,400 times and said, Ed, will you cross-connect this for us, please? Got done. Pain in the ass, but it got done. And then we reflected back. We said, if the biggest company in the world doesn't have kind of a national one-stop shop field services business, then we think that a whole bunch of other folks don't either. Today, our field services business is $125 million. It nets 6, 7, 8% a year. It's a tactical advantage that we have. Others don't, because we could say, we'll put in this circuit or this Cisco appliance, and then we'll do it ourselves to install it for you. And it's a strategic arm that's created another 200 American jobs, creates value and cash flow, and it was the idea of a customer. Third example I'm going to give you, some of you have heard about our product called Edge Boot. Edge Boot is wireless rebooting. Just rough math, we have 300,000 data circuits that we manage. We take 42,000 repair tickets a month. 2/3 of the time, service is restored by rebooting. Okay? Those are just, that's the math of Granite. I'm telling you trade secrets now, okay? That's the math of Granite. Okay? One of our biggest customers is TJX Marshall's Home Goods. TJX, they have 4,200 stores. We do data circuits, manage their service. Same ratios. Problem is the rebooting for TJX Marshalls, they have 2 choices. Ask the manager, stop selling sweatshirts, and go start pushing buttons and unplugging things, which she doesn't want to do, and we at TJX don't want her to do, or wait till tomorrow, pay $400, and a tech will come do it. Both options are lousy. Granted, Rob, wouldn't it be cool if instead of getting through this wireline device, if we could come in wirelessly? Because once the wire line goes down, now you can't get into that box anymore, right? Are you guys all sales guys and you don't understand any of the technology here? I'm the ultimate sales guy and I don't understand any of the technology. I just want to see if any of you are still with me. Thank you. Again, problem is we can't get to that box because this wire line is now disconnected from the box, right? Couldn't we get to it wirelessly? We said, yeah, let's look for that. So we scoured the earth. It didn't exist. 8 months ago, we patented Edge Boot, which is wireless rebooting. So the box, the router, the switch, the cradle point, whatever it may be, we can plug into the console. If it goes down, it senses that it's going down. We turn it down, then we turn it back up. 65% of the time, service is restored. So now in our managed services, and I'm telling you, this is like hotcakes. It's only been 4 or 5 months. This is a very strategic advantage. Acknowledge that you think this is pretty clever, isn't it? I'm telling you, it's pretty clever. And again, I'd love to say to you, some guy at Granite or I thought of this. You know who thought of this? TJ Maxx. They told us. So in preparation for this talk, I did the math. I go to see our customers almost every week, 50 weeks out of the year. I leave on a Monday night. I go to a city, 8 o'clock, 9:30, 11, 1, 2:30, 4. I fly to another city, same thing. So I have 12 face-to-face meetings a week. Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, I probably have 40 Zoom calls. So rough math, and let me get the right number here for you. I probably do 600 face-to-face meetings a year. In 20 years, I've probably done 12,000. I do 200 Zoom calls a year. In 20 years, I've probably done 40,000. Two things that I want to say to you. One, let me help you. So my objective, and I'm throwing out a plug for me and for Granite here, is to be in front of customers. If you have big customers that you want help with, for the next, God willing, for the next 15, 20 years, that's what I'm going to do. If you can get me a great meeting in a city, I would love to go and help you close that deal. That's my objective, and I promise you I'm pretty good at that. Okay? Number two, for me, the final product that I want to share with you was a creation of really your industry. So we have an offering, some of you will have seen it, some of you will not have seen it, called Granite 360. Granite 360 is a byproduct of an investment in technology, driven in many ways by the vision this industry has. By that I mean channel. You drive innovation. You drive efficiencies, right? You have to be more clever and more nimble than AT&T and Verizon, or they'll crush you, right? Same as us too, right? If you're not more thoughtful, if you're not doing cooler things, more flexible, more innovative things, you won't survive, right? Is that fair to say? So when we see things, when my teammates come back and say, hey, here's some cool, and I ask them, I'm like, what things do you see that are cool in your industry? Because you guys are on the leading edge of innovation. So Granite 360, in many ways, is driven by the things that you have shown us. Backing up just 2 years, we're 22 years old. June 3rd, we turned 22 years old. First 20 years of our existence, every problem at Granite got solved by spreadsheets and bodies. 2 years ago, we said, this isn't going to work. If we don't hit the pause button, if we don't invest in AI, efficiency, and automation, we won't get to an automated future. 8 months, 6, 7, 8 months, we evaluated. 16, 17 months ago, we put down $27, $28 million worth of investment in that AI efficiency software and automation. Cornerstone to it all is MuleSoft. Some of you guys use MuleSoft, familiar with MuleSoft? So MuleSoft was bought by Salesforce for maybe $40 billion 2 years ago. It's probably the leading data aggregator in terms of apps. You guys are familiar with AT&T, right? AT&T, as you know, has an operating system in Chicagoland called Ameritech, in Dallas called SBC, in Florida, Bell South, and in California, Pac Bell, right? I bet many of you either worked there or are very familiar with those operating systems, right? As you know, they've owned those companies for 35 years, and yet they've never integrated them, right? Now you look, our niche is multi-location big business. That's our niche. So you think about lots of locations, lots of circuits. Those customers have to, you supporting them, we supporting them, or that big customer, one or the other. You layer in those 4 operating systems, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Lumen, Verizon, et al. Somebody on your team, our team, or their team is wasting lots of time, right? Right? Are you new to this industry, you guys? Some of you? So somebody's wasting lots of time. MuleSoft allows us to throw all of that into a singular reservoir and then do one query, hub, spoke, ask multiple answers, distill it down to one answer. So we've created tools, which I'm telling you we learned in many ways from the requests you had of us. Like, and I'll tell you one of them, Access Express. You type in the name, 1 Main Street, Plano. I want access, 1 Main Street, Plano, Texas. Goes through MuleSoft, goes through an app called Newstar. I'm telling you the name so you can Google it if you want. Newstar, some of you worked with it before, I'm sure, right? It's an API handoff to the 140 largest carriers in the United States and Canada. Ask them who has access there. Brings it back through Salesforce, gets its pricing. 15 seconds later, you are giving NNI handoff, network-to-network interface, handoff from their networks. Here are the options at 1 Main Street, Plano, Texas. Tell me, please, how long would it take you to get just the pricing from an incumbent LEC? Please, tell me. Days, weeks, right? 15 seconds. All of the 140 largest carriers in the US and Canada. Your customer or you looks at it and says, I want the 100 over 100, click, goes to AT&T, grabs the ticket, Salesforce grabs the ticket. 45 seconds later, you have a completed order ticket number. Please tell me how long that's going to take you to get that from AT&T, Verizon, Lumen, Zayo, any of those guys. 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, sometimes months, right? 45 seconds later, at your fingertips. Now, the database that we're starting to talk about with some of the guys in this room, that we want to talk about with you, is we'll customize the portal so it says your firm, powered by Granite, and then you put that portal in front of your customers. So they don't have to go, you're bringing them competition, right? You're bringing them 140 carriers. But it's our competition. We are going to win this business. They're going to have choices, and everything's automated. So they can see it. How many of you have had that call that you got to make, like, hey, I need this circuit in 7 weeks because I got a grand opening? Yeah, we got this, no problem. Until 2 weeks before the grand opening, and you're like, oh, I forgot to tell, I just found out that you have construction. Oh, hey, Mrs. Customer, you want the good news or the bad news? The good news is you can get this circuit. It's just going to cost you $17,000. And secondly, it'll be here in 4 months. That's great. My grand opening's in 2 weeks. Tell me you've had those calls. If you haven't, then you haven't been around for a while. This tells you in 4 hours if you need site survey. This tells you in 24 hours if you need construction. Then we just go back, and it flags us both. And we go back and tell the customer, hey, AT&T is $70 more, but they're in the building. We can wait for Comcast to do the construction. It's up to you. Or we can take this circuit that's more, that's in the building. 9 times out of 10, what are they going to do? They're going to take the existing circuit. Point is, and this is a powerful tool, and I'm telling you, we are talking about white labeling this with some of the largest carriers in the United States. This is a powerful tool that can be a distinct advantage for us, and I hope becomes a distinct advantage to you. And my point is, you, as our customer, taught us this. Yes, we've taken it a step or two further, but the genesis of this idea came from you. So people do say to me all the time, Rob, why do you go see the customers? The reason I go to the customers is they defined this business. The idea of multi-location big business, which is bedrock to who we are, came from them. The idea to do field services, which is strategic advantage, came from them. Wireless rebooting came from them. And the very vision in which we're going to invest in our future, automation, visibility, and control, came from you, our customers. So punchline here, listen to your customers. They will help you grow your business, I promise you. Final thought. In my opinion, number one, and again, I'm telling you this as a business owner to business owner, not an advocate for Granite. Do not fear failure. It is part of the process. The only way it's really going to hurt you is if it stops you. Avoid it at all costs, but take chances so you can be great. 2, stick to your knitting. Find out what you're good at and stay with it. 3, integrity matters. 4, if you listen to your customers, I promise you, in the short term and in the long term, you will have a bigger, better business because of it. Thank you for the opportunity to present. I look forward to growing with you for years.